It might still be summer, but Northeast Conference football is right around the corner. Live from MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, home of the New York Football Giants, 4-time Super Bowl champions in the Toyota Coaches Club. It's NEC Social Media Day. Hi everybody, joined by Paul Dottino. I am John Schmelk. Today we have a very busy show for you. We'll get our NEC preseason coaches poll and get our first look at the preseason all-NEC teams on offense, defense, and special teams. Paul, today is our first peek at what the landscape of the 2015 NEC football season is going to look like. And the one thing we all love about NEC football, it's unpredictable.
Yeah, it sure is, John. 7 teams in the Northeast Conference. The champion, of course, gets a bid to the NCAA playoffs. That is the holy grail when you're playing in FCS football.
That's right, Paul. The third member of our team is John Cabral. He will be roaming the area all show long, bringing you great interviews. John, the one thing about the NEC, every single year, it's extremely competitive.
Good morning, gentlemen. Just a glorious day out here at MetLife Stadium as we dive into the 2015 NEC Social Media Day. If there's one thing we love about NEC football, of course, is that it's always competitive, and not just on the gridiron, but also online as well. Going to be keeping an eye all day long on hashtag NECFB. So if you want to make your voice heard for your team in the NEC in 2015, give us a shout on Twitter. We'll be checking it all day long. Guys?
For the next 90 minutes, you will hear from every single head coach of every NEC football team, including a couple of stars from each one of those teams. We'll have NEC alumni and other very special guests as well. That will keep a little bit of a surprise for you. But first, let us start with the preseason coaches poll. Sitting atop our poll is Brian. 4 first-place votes coming off a 4-2 season, Paul. They've never won an NEC title.
Well, that's right, John. The Bulldogs are entering their 7th season in the NEC. They won 8 games last year overall. That's their high since they've been in this league. 5-1 at home. And last year, they actually cracked the nation's top 25 for a short time period.
Up second, Duquesne. They were picked second in last year's poll, but they had a disappointing 2-4 season.
Yeah, Duquesne, when Dylan Beekle went down, their quarterback, that kind of sidetracked things. They last won a share of the NEC title in 2013.
And finally, Sacred Heart rounds out our top 3. 2-time defending champions, but 2 first-place votes in our poll were not enough.
19 combined wins over the last 2 seasons, the most back-to-back wins by any school in this conference since Monmouth won 10-10 in 2003 and 4.
Wagner, St. Francis, Central Connecticut, and Robert Morris round out our top 7.
And Wagner has won a share of the NEC title in 2 of the past 3 years. The Red Flash of St. Francis, do you know in conference they've been 500 in each of the last 3 seasons? So the Red Flash really coming on strong recently.
Well, Paul, let's move on to our all-NEC preseason team. Let's start at quarterback with R.J. Noel. Still only a junior, all he does is win games, leading Sacred Heart to 2 straight conference titles and a 19-6 record. Up next, running back Kahari Dixon, a preseason All-American. He led the FCS with more than 155 rushing yards per game last year and finished with more than 1,700. We'll hear from both those guys later in the show. Then you have Ricardo McCray. He split carries last year with fellow senior Paul Canavari. He has the speed and the power to get the ball into the end zone. At wide receiver, let's start with R.J. Noel's favorite target, Tyler Doobie. He can go up and get it, scoring a ridiculous 16 touchdowns in 2014. He also has the speed to get deep with 960 receiving yards. Chris King claimed the second wide receiver spot. He had more than 1,100 receiving yards last year and 14 touchdowns for Duquesne. Chad Ward, he holds the third wide receiver spot with more than 600 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns, including that game winner against Stony Brook. Finally, at tight end, Ryan Owens, the senior out of Wagner, isn't just a weapon in the passing game, Paul. He can also block, much like the 5 offensive linemen on our list. Paul, all 5 players well-deserving, and they've paved the way for very effective running games in the NEC.
Yeah, well, you know, John, nobody had a better running game in this league than Bryant did last year. 200 yards a game on the ground. Aiden Maboj and George Smith, 2 guys who made that all-preseason NEC team, and they're back strong again this year.
All right, now let's look to the defensive side of the ball, our all-NEC preseason selections. We'll start with Asia Bowling, who had 6 sacks and 12 tackles for loss last year for the Blue Devils. Then you have Connor Caveney. He has the power to collapse the pocket. He had 3 sacks last year. Al Page will join us later on today, a 2015 preseason All-American for Wagner. Connor Candido, he will be with us today as well. He had 3.5 sacks and 3 interceptions last year. Sam Martello is the leader of the Duquesne defense, had 2 sacks, a pick, and a safety last season. Then you have James Rentz, a one-man wrecking crew, 12.5 sacks, 19 tackles for loss last year. Freshman Nathan Stone stormed the league in his freshman year, led his team in tackles with 100. We move to the secondary. Trenton Cole's on the team. Then we have Javon Elmore. He had 3 interceptions last year and blocked 2 kicks, a true lockdown corner. Lorenzo Jerome joins him in the defensive backfield. He led his team in tackles last year, had a forced fumble and 3 picks. Teammate Daquan Minter joins him from the Red Flash. He had 5 interceptions and 8 pass breakups last season. Finally, on special teams, 3 Red Flash players, including kicker Lance Giese, who converted on 18 of 22 field goal attempts, call some great players on defense and special teams.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, John, because a lot of times the offensive players get more of the accolades, but the defensive players in this league are stout. 7 first-team NEC defensive players are on the preseason team this year, coming back from last season, and then 3 second-teamers in Caveney, Martello, and Jerome. We're going to see a lot of hits this season.
No question. We'll be hearing from a lot of those players later on today, as well as a lot of other special guests. Make sure you stay tuned.